In this video, I'll show you how to break down a picture into lines and how that can help you understand the picture. It's in my book, Ellen's Guide to Design Elements, which is only $5. Lines have two properties that spots don't have, namely their length and their orientation, and both affect the equilibrium. So let's look at this first picture where the lines are the same length, the same thickness, and in a spot that should result in equilibrium. But their different orientations makes this look out of balance. Now, I divided the rest of these into static and dynamic patterns and static and dynamic motives. You can divide them any way you want, but let's just look at my division. So a static pattern is where the lines are either where they're parallel and aligned. So that's a static pattern, and this is a static pattern because they're parallel and aligned. A dynamic pattern is where they're parallel but not aligned. So this would be parallel and not aligned, and so would this. Now a static motive are horizontal or vertical lines. So this is a static motive because they're vertical, and this is a static motive. And these are dynamic motives because they're diagonal. So you can see all the different combinations. And so far, this one is the one with the most energy. These three diagonals are equal in length, width, and direction. And they're in a static pattern where these form a line, and these are actually vertically oriented, although that's less obvious. Now let's take this static pattern of diagonal motifs and change one of them. And you would think that wouldn't affect anything, but it actually affects the balance in the picture. We would follow these diagonals to a point over here. So this now looks unbalanced. We can move it over to the right, so this point is in the middle. I think that the balance is probably in between these two. And then we have over here lines that are either parallel or perpendicular to each other, creating movement and alternating counter movement. I simplified this painting into its main lines and then broke them down into these four categories. You can use whatever categories you want, but it helps you simplify the picture, and let's see what we can learn from this. So in the first one, parallel and aligned, an important line is the background because these two have to look like they are connected. Now what about parallel and non-aligned? Well, the brim of the hat and the shoulder would be parallel and non-aligned. Now, the non-parallel converging lines look like the dominant type of line, and that's because they make up the tapering arms and legs, which is an important part of this picture. And then finally, there are non-parallel diverging lines, and the only ones we see are the feet, and so they attract our attention. This person is walking with his toes pointed outward, which is called duck walking, which looks unusual from this perspective, and most adults don't walk this way. So we ask, why is he walking this way? Is it a style? Is something wrong with his legs? A perpendicular relationship between lines is particularly important, and the only perpendicular relationship we see here is this house in the distance. You may think it's so small and insignificant, why do we really care about it? But I think this house is actually very important. It's the only man-made structure, so it piques our interest. We wonder what type of house it is. It's a very light structure compared to the increasingly dark downhill. That not only provides a great deal of depth in an otherwise flat picture, but it points to the mood and the meaning of the picture. In this picture of the blind leading the blind, the first man has already fallen into the ditch, and the other 5 blind men will soon follow. They're holding on to each other as if they're false guides, but they're actually pulling each other into the ditch. And if you look at the lines, you could see that the land is angled downward. So it's as if they have no choice. And you could see these green diagonals getting increasingly steep as the people fall into the ditch. And there's a space here, which is, I'm sure, put on purpose so that we can see the church in the distance. Remember my $5 book on Amazon, and please remember to subscribe.